Holly White was last seen on May 6, 2016 in Taos, New Mexico. Her body was never found, and no one actually knows if she is dead or alive. But the details surrounding her disappearance are strange enough to make us wonder. Is Holly dead? Is she alive? Or is she living a secret life somewhere else? My name is John.
And I'm Brienne.
We are the host of What Happened To, a show where we discuss missing persons cases and the theories surrounding them that hold hidden secrets.
Today, we're going to discuss the disappearance of Holly White and the reason that some people believe that she is still alive to this day.
When Holly first disappeared, police knew immediately that something was wrong. They knew this because she had a schedule, and on May 6th, she never showed up.
Every morning, Holly would meet her close friend Cynthia Arvidsson for a walk in the park. The two women, joined by Holly's beloved dog Rosie, would go for a nice stroll to get some fresh air and to get their steps in, of course.
But on this day, after 8 years of never missing a walk, Holly didn't show up. Cynthia waited for Holly, hoping to see her blue Ford Escape pull up at any time, but it never did. Desperate to find her friend, Cynthia made repeated attempts to contact her. She sent texts and made calls, but Holly never answered and she never showed up.
Cynthia knew that something was wrong, but she also knew how to find her friend, or so she thought. Cynthia had a key to Holly's house because sometimes she would help with Holly's dog Rosie while Holly was at work. Though it was rare, she had the key and she intended to use it.
When Cynthia arrived, she noticed immediately that Holly's blue Ford Escape was nowhere to be found. And then things got even more strange. Cynthia opened the door to find Rosie inside, which immediately ruled out the possibility that Holly and Rosie got into an accident on the way to their walk. Rosie seemed anxious, and it was obvious that nobody had let her out to use the bathroom. When Cynthia walked through the house, fearful that she might find Holly incapacitated somewhere, she saw something even more disturbing.
Holly's purse and cell phone were sitting on the kitchen counter, almost like she was preparing to head out for their walk, but something stopped her. There weren't any signs of struggles, no broken lamps, no drops of blood, nothing that would imply that there had been any kind of fight in the house. Holly was just gone.
When asked, Cynthia told NBC News, "None of it made any sense. Holly always had her purse with her, and she would never leave her dog Rosie. She was like her child."
Now, John and I are both dog lovers. We have our fur babies, and we get it.
Right. So, what could make Holly just abandon her dog when Rosie clearly needed her? If you have a dog, you know that this isn't normal. It was the strange nature of this case that caught the interest of the police. Even though police generally wait for 48 hours before they pursue a missing person, Holly's case had too many concerning details to overlook.
They began to look into the case immediately.
And here's why. Holly was in a very happy marriage. She was approaching her 50th birthday. She had plenty of close friends.
And more importantly, she would never leave her dog. This was a full Rosa Diaz.
But if anything happened to him, I would kill everyone in this room and then myself.
Her coworkers at the Taos Centers for the Arts described her as cheerful. None of these traits describe someone who would voluntarily walk away from her life, especially while leaving behind her purse, bank cards, and cell phone.
The last person to hear from Holly was her husband, Jeff. Jeff lived over 2 hours away in Albuquerque, but before you get any ideas about the nature of their marriage, this was actually by design. Jeff had recently taken a new job in the area and moved. Their home, the one that Holly disappeared from, was set to close only 4 days after her disappearance. And I'm going to veer away from the research on this one. I believe that this was interesting, especially if there's any chance that Holly and Jeff didn't have a good marriage. Was it possible that Holly was scared to leave her home, her friend, and her routine behind? How good was her marriage really?
We'll circle back to that later, but running with the idea that everything was fine, there was one more detail to Holly's routine. Holly and Jeff would talk on the phone every day. Phone records indicate that their last call ended at 9:20 p.m. the night before her disappearance. Jeff said that Holly seemed like her usual cheerful self. She was stressed about the move, but who wouldn't be? Moving is rough. Most of us don't look forward to it. On Dateline, Jeff said, "That was the last time I spoke to her, and then she was gone. It was a shock to everyone."
But Jeff wasn't the only person that she spoke to that day. She also talked to Jill Gustafson, her lifelong best friend. These two women first met back in high school, but their bond lasted over 35 years. According to Jill, Holly told her everything, but wouldn't your best friend say the same thing? More importantly, would they be right?
Jill lived in Oregon, but that did not hinder their friendship. These two spoke every single day, and these weren't casual texts either. Every day, these two best friends would talk for hours. Even though they were miles apart, they shared a close bond and told each other everything. On Dateline, Jill said, quote, "We were inseparable. We shared a lot of firsts, like putting on makeup, talking about our first kiss we had with a boy. We told each other everything." Holly's family and friends are clueless, and so are the police. What happened to Holly White? Why were her purse and cell phone in the house? Why was her car missing?
This is where the story gets hard to tell. At least, it would if not for some really bizarre inconsistencies. Holly's car was found abandoned in a parking lot near the Rio Grande Gorge Bridge. This bridge has one of the highest suicide rates per capita in the country. So, that didn't look good.
An attendant in the area claimed that the car was there when she arrived at 6:15 that morning. She didn't notice anything unusual, so she didn't call the police and only called the towing company several hours later.
When police found the vehicle, they managed to leave 2 fingerprints, one from the rearview mirror and the other from the passenger side door. There was just one problem.
The fingerprints were incomplete, and that wasn't all. There was no DNA inside the vehicle, which seems a little suspicious. Holly's keys were found resting comfortably in the cup holder.
Police had to treat the investigation like a suicide. It made the most sense. Her car was there, abandoned. This was a spot that was known as a prime spot for jumpers. But there was something unusual about her disappearance. Holly's body was never found.
Every single person that had jumped before Holly on public record has been found. Holly's body should have been easy to recover. Her body should have been seen by law enforcement or dive teams, but there was nothing.
Her husband claimed that she would never kill herself. He said, "She wasn't that type of person. I know damn well she didn't jump. She didn't leave me. There would have been a note. She's not a cold person. She wouldn't leave her dog. I don't know why she would just leave on her own. She just wouldn't."
After a week-long search for Holly across the 12 miles of the Grand Gorge River, divers found something interesting. Floating in the water was a single woman's black Skechers shoe.
Cynthia was able to identify it. It belonged to Holly.
This raised more questions than it answered. Why was only one shoe found?
Did someone throw the shoe over the bridge to confuse investigators and sell the story?
On one popular true crime forum, a user named Narissa pointed out that the Grand Gorge Bridge was not within walking distance from Holly's home. Narissa claimed that the bridge is in a fairly remote and rural area, and if Holly walked away from that car and the bridge, she would have needed an accomplice. Of course, she also pointed out that someone who lived near the river could have abducted Holly, but how likely is that?
A lot of the time when someone goes missing or ends up murdered, someone close to them is involved. While Holly and Jeff's relationship seemed picture perfect on the surface, how true was that really? Was Holly as excited about the move as Jeff claimed she was, or was there more to the story?
Jeff agreed to a polygraph test, hoping to push the investigation forward. He repeatedly criticized the police for moving at what he called a snail's pace.
But then, he said something strange. Jeff once complained that law enforcement didn't check his wife's sheets for DNA.
What?
Yeah. It doesn't exactly scream happy marriage.
Maybe Jeff just wanted the police to be thorough. Or maybe Jeff believed that his wife was unfaithful.
Maybe he believed that Holly decided to run away with an unnamed lover. Or maybe that person killed her.
Six months passed, but Holly's family was still looking for her. They printed flyers to help people identify her. Her father, in particular, took his daughter's disappearance hard. He told reporters that their hearts had been ripped out and that they would never stop looking for Holly. Despite these efforts, no new leads presented themselves.
But that doesn't mean that police didn't learn more.
Remember Jill, Holly's best friend and confidant? The person she told everything to?
After Holly's disappearance, Jill learned that Holly didn't tell her everything.
Holly was never found, but some of her secrets came to the surface after police looked through her computer. And they were bad enough to devastate her husband and her closest friends.
Unfortunately, those secrets haven't been released.
We don't know what her friends and family learned, only that it really upset them.
What secrets did Holly's computer hold?
What was so bad that she didn't want to tell her best friend Jill of 35 years?
Was it an affair or something darker?
What could have been bad enough to hide from everyone that she loved?
And more importantly, what happened to Holly White?
We may never know.
But that doesn't stop us from speculating.
Subscribe and tune in to the next episode of What Happened To learn about yet another strange missing persons case.
We'll be back soon with more weird cases, so don't miss out.